graduate practicum form for spring 2016. My name is Amber Hearn, and I will be your presenter today. I am a graduate student in the Master of Science and Interdisciplinary Studies program in the Department of Occupational Workforce and Leadership Studies at Texas State University. The title of my professional practicum is Victims and Justice. For the past 2 months, I have been working persistently in my professional practicum to gain experience and knowledge about justice in correlation to victims of crime, an effort to gain a better understanding of how victims of crime can be served to help their recovery process. The purpose of my practicum is to experience firsthand how a county court of law provides restitution to crime victims within the context of its resources, protocols, and practices. In an effort to do this, I focused on 4 main learning objectives. The first was to identify the laws and policies pertaining to the agency. Popular laws that were commonly used in cases containing one or more victims, and policies that were used within the agency to provide the victim of a crime with efficient effectiveness. The second objective was to understand the legislative functions that occur within the courtroom or at the Hays County Courthouse, while including the victim and the victim service coordinators in a case at trial. My third learning objective was to review, understand, and categorize court and case documents accordingly, in an effort to better understand the language used within the fields of criminal justice. Lastly, the fourth objective was to utilize my knowledge and skills to help victims of crime, whether it be making sure their paperwork was filed correctly, whether there was enough victim impact statements readily available for them to fill out, or referencing them to potential help for their victim problems. My practicum was located in San Marcos, Texas, at the Hays County Government Center in the Hays County District Attorney's Office under the Victim Services Division. There, I was under the supervision of the lead victim assistance coordinator, Maggie Avalos. I was honored to have had this practicum opportunity because I believe that as long as there are differences in the world, there will be crime, and victims of crime should have justice and/or restitution. This opportunity has given me great experience and practice in the field. I will now discuss my top 3 highlights during my practicum. The first highlight of my practicum would be restitution orders and crime victim compensation. The great thing about these 2 entities is that they give financial assistance to victims of crime. However, although they provide the same outcome of financial retribution, they are sourced differently. Restitution orders are financed by the defendant or the offender of the committed crime. And a CVC, or Crime Victim Compensation, is a program that is administered by the Hays County District Attorney's Office. And the money in the program is funded by those convicted of a crime, but may not necessarily include a victim, such as a traffic ticket, for example. For some of us, we may be happy to hear we are helping a victim when we pay our speeding tickets. Another difference is CVCs are more focused on compensation rather than reimbursement. CVC pays for crime scene cleanup, funeral expenses, travel expenses, when making court appearances, etc. Monetary responsibilities that are a result of the crime that the victim should not have to pay for out of pocket. My second highlight for the practicum would be Vine. Vine is an online website advocating victims' rights to be informed about the case. The website vinelink.com allows the victim to sign up for notifications and alerts about the case as the court process goes on. Victims will no longer feel left out and can be kept up to date if they prefer to. My last highlight is pertaining to the case Brady versus Maryland. This case set a standard to ensure that justice is being fulfilled. This case provides the landmark for the term Brady material. The Brady rule requires prosecutors to disclose explanatory evidence, otherwise known as excusable or justifiable evidence, in the government's possession to the defense. The prosecutor must present evidence that may be in favor of the defendant for a lesser term or non-accusation. This helps to ensure that justice is being served accordingly. Now let's review some of the articles I found helpful during my time at my practicum. The first article is by J. Dumont and others. The article discusses the importance of not dismissing the victims or creating victimization. The rates of victim impact statements being filled out in return are very slim. The most important takeaway from this article is that victims feel as their voice will not be heard in the courtroom, and they tend to have the mindset of why even bother with victim impact statements. The second article is Victim Satisfaction with the Criminal Justice System by M. Kunust and others. This article shows there are mixed results when it comes to victims being satisfied with the justice served and if victims can ever fully recover emotionally from the distress of the crime. I think it is important to continue this research further and see where the disconnect lies, so that the training for law enforcement on how to address victims increases, and also how to address victims to speak to law enforcement so that the effort is coming from both sides equally. My last literature highlight is No Contact Orders, Victim Safety and Offender Recidivism in Cases of Misdemeanor Criminal Domestic Violence by R. Braum and other authors. This piece of literature touched on a huge problem that the Victim Services Division deals with on a daily basis. Many victims come in and want a protective order right away. However, these orders do not come in a relatively quick time. They must go through a process to get signed, and they take days rather than minutes. More than 50% of the time a no contact order even gets put into action, the victim wants to revoke it right away, especially in domestic violence cases. And even after they do get put into place, a piece of paper is difficult to restrain someone. Hopefully the research continues on how to address this issue, as it is a huge problem in the Victim Services Division. During my practicum time, each week I reflected on my strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, better known as SWOT reflections, to help me grow as an effective leader. My greatest strength decided between my supervisor and I would be a positive mood. Although this may seem so cliche and not like a big accomplishment, I find it helpful to always remain positive in stressful situations. A positive mood can create a much more friendly environment and work atmosphere, making other coworkers and even victims feel brighter. My weakness would be communication. I tend to be very shy and not ask for what I want, or instead of asking, I avoid communication because of the fear of rejection or being looked down upon. So it ends up being even a bigger mess. If you want something, you have to ask for it, and if you do not understand what a person is asking of you, be sure to ask them to clarify until you can get it right. Communication is a major key to success and life in general. The opportunity that has come out of this practicum is definitely the experience playing into my multi-dimensional role as a leader. Previously, I was strict criminal justice on the prosecuting side of the field. It was a nice change to be the helping hand side and been given the opportunity to show I can play many roles. My threat during the practicum was allowing myself to feel intimidated at the agency because of my lack of experience. However, I think it's important to note that everyone started somewhere. You have to remain confident in your path and continue to grow and learn along the way. With graduation approaching, it is nearly time to start narrowing down my career choices. My top career choice at the moment is becoming an investigator for Children Protective Services. After my practicum experience with victim services and reading many sexual assault cases on children, I really want to be a part of a team that is fighting against the obscenity and protecting the children. Since I was little, I have wanted to follow in my father's footsteps of being a special agent for Immigration Customs Enforcement, which is better known as Homeland Security Investigations. So that is another option. And lastly, at some point in my life, I hope to give back to my country by enlisting in the Navy Reserves. On the YouTube page below, please indicate your anonymous preference for this practicum by clicking on one of the following two icons. Also, please post your comments or questions in the YouTube comment section below. I will respond to your inquiries posted between March 28th and April 10th through this webpage. Thank you for your